Hey guys, Chris from Average Skate Reviews here, back with another video. Now this one's going to be essentially my first impressions of what the Stoke is like. Of course you guys know that I'm used to riding full-size longboards like the GTRs, the Stealth from Boosted, as well as a bunch of other brands including Eksate and V-Star or Vesta, however you want to pronounce it. So moving on to a board that has a much smaller or shorter deck was definitely something that I didn't really think I would enjoy as much. But one of the things I've got to say right off the bat is the fact that even though this deck is much smaller than if you line it up next to the GTR Bamboo, the Carbon, or any other full longboard, your foot positioning on the board is very similar to where it would be in terms of the distance between your feet on a full-size longboard. Now that's probably one of the main reasons why it felt so much better to ride than I thought it would. I've ridden things like the Boosted Mini X before while I was in Den Haag in the Netherlands, and my biggest peeve was that my feet were so close together, I didn't feel stable at the speed that that board could go up to. So if you're sitting there on the fence about buying one of these based off of riding full-size boards and you don't know what it's going to feel like, I can honestly say you're not going to have any issues with what sort of level of stability and control you have, and just general riding comfort while you're on this board. Massive surprise, and it's the first thing I've noticed. Now from there, it's definitely going to be the speed. The wheels are much smaller, so it's going to have a lot more torque than some of the other boards that I'm used to riding with much bigger wheels. It goes from 0 to top speed, which at this moment for me is sitting at about 21 miles an hour, very quickly. And the brakes, again, because of the setup of the board, are very sharp, but not in a bad way. Just a lot sharper than what I'm used to riding 80 wheels and 107 wheels. But all of these so far are just positives. There's really little I've got to say about this board that's a negative. The only one I can think of just off the top of my head is going to be the range. Roughly I'm sitting on between 6 and 7 miles riding fairly hard. Of course, if I slowed it down and I just took a little bit more ease while I was riding, I'd get maybe 8 or 9 miles. But that's really the only negative, because this board uses the same travel battery that you have for the GTRs. So it's effectively going to have a very similar range to the video that we filmed in Spain when we did a range test on the travel batteries for the GTRs. But that brings me on to one of the best things about this board, is the fact that you can fly with it pretty much as it is. I'd probably still recommend taking the battery off when you're going through security, but I could literally throw that board on a plane with me as hand luggage, which for me is a big deal. That's one of the main reasons why I picked it up. So anytime I fly, if it's for work or not, you can expect me to have that board with me. So some other things I really loved about this board is going to be the look. After actually getting my hands on it, lying it down next to the other GTR boards, I've got to say that, in my opinion, I think this is the best looking board that they've made. I would love to have wheels that were bigger and softer and had a bit of tread so you could ride on, you know, pretty much the same sort of surfaces that you'd get away with riding with an AT wheel. Obviously not as extreme, but I know that's just not what this board is for. But as the sort of skateboard that you grab to go out and just go for a rip and have fun, this is probably going to be the one that I pick over the other ones, because it's just so carvy and so much fun to ride. Now that quickly brings us on to what it's like to carve with. I've had so much fun with this board. I thought the wheels would be quite slippery. Of course, there's 3 different wheel setups for this board. I've gone for essentially the wheels that are in the middle, so they're not too hard, not too soft. I've had a decent amount of bite. We've had good conditions in terms of the weather in the UK for the last few days that I've been riding on this board, and it's been a dream. The agility that this board has, the aggressiveness of its turning, the only way that I can describe it, it's a very similar feel to riding the Boosted board when we had the surf adapter put on it, if you remember that video. It is so carvy, and it's unbelievable how much and how hard you can push this board if you want to. I'm going to be working on kind of like developing my confidence in sliding, because while I was carving, I did manage to get the back end of this board out a couple of times. I did lose my balance on one of them and had to run off the board, but I'm getting better at doing that, and I want to use this board to help me develop my ability to carve and be able to slide the board out whenever I want to, so stay tuned for videos on that as I get better. I think the main reason this board is so much carvier than the other ones, aside from the shorter base, is the fact that the wheels sit underneath your feet effectively, rather than the wheels being in front of the deck like you get with the GTRs and all of the other boards that you see us riding. So that's one of the biggest reasons it's been so much fun to ride, and it rides so differently to the other ones. And of course, let's not mention the kicktail. That allows you to be a little bit more, I guess you could say, crazy when you're riding. You can drop off of curbs, you can try and manual the board. It's just got a lot more to be able to offer you in terms of going out and just having a great time, rather than the GTRs, which again, I'm not saying this is better than them. All I'm saying is that this is even more dynamic than the GTRs, excluding the different setups that you can get with gears and wheels, of course, but I mean just the way that the board rides. It's been a blast, and I'm looking forward to learning more about this board as I develop more confidence riding it. Looking at the design of this board, I really like the fact that it has the exposed wood on the top of it. They've not tried to cover it up with grip tape that would destroy the look of the board. Even the rear of the board by the tail, that spongy foam pad that they've put by the rear, I didn't really understand what that was about until you actually get out on the board and ride. It's incredibly comfortable. The only way I can describe the comfort of this board, it's like a really sweet spot between the bamboo and the carbon. Of course, the deck is shorter, so it is flexible, but it's nowhere near as flexible as the bamboo, but it's nowhere near as stiff as the carbon. It's a really nice sweet spot in the middle that still allows you to have confidence while you're riding over bumps and cracks or roads that aren't as smooth as you'd like them to be. The wheels are of course much smaller and harder than what you can get with the other boards like the all-terrain wheels, but saying that, being able to pick the softness of the wheels, having 3 different options, the way that the deck's been designed, the way that that foam pad sits at the back, all of this adds up to a very comfortable ride regardless of the fact that the board has very, very small wheels. The Stoke has the same trucks and the same motors that you find on the GTRs. Although they're the same, it does have a completely different ride. It has a familiar feel, so you've still got that power, that acceleration, the torque that you'd expect from an Evolve board, but it has a completely different ride in comparison to those other boards. Now, of course, this is just a first impressions video, so I don't want to go into too much detail because the board is still very new and there's still a lot of testing and riding that I need to do with it before I can do a proper review on it. But thank you for watching this all the way to the end. Please make sure you thumbs up the video, subscribe, and if you've got any questions about this board, pop them down below in the comment section and I'll answer them as best as I can. But thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to subscribe before you go, and take care until next time.